Hey everyone, Ryan and Freddie again with Peer Support. Since June is PTSD Awareness Month, just want to get a quick video out. There's actually a pretty good video at the back end of this with Dr. Odom from First Responder Wellness. Talks about PTSD, kind of where it's started from, the diagnoses and the different names, and how it's perceived today. So I'm going to leave most of it up to him to discuss some of this stuff, but just wanted to touch base with some of you out there. It's already been kind of a hot, busy summer. I know a lot of us are exhausted with multiple mandatories. A lot of big fires have been going on. Just giving you a little quick note to hang in there. We're all kind of working hard together, and I know sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but try and get some good sleep on your days off. Hang out with your family, get some of those good coping skills going again, and focus on the things that'll help you reset and rejuvenate your mental fitness moving forward. Like I said, we all know it's kind of been hot and busy already. We've got several months to go this summer. And so if you ever need help or want to talk or need to decompress and vent, please give somebody a call. You can call me or any of the coordinators or anybody else on Peer Support, or reach out to one of your buddies. Okay, so continue to take care of yourself, your crew, and your family. And with that, I'll leave you with Dr. Odom.
As we enter into June being Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Month, thought it might be a good idea to share a little bit about what it is, where it comes from, how we even know about it. So historically speaking, post-traumatic stress was evolved from combat. Originally in World War I, we used to call it battle fatigue. As we progressed and got all the way up to World War II, it changed its name and it became shell-shocked. We didn't really even start to call it post-traumatic stress until about the Vietnam War. And all that history tells us that in our minds and kind of in the collective unconscious, we think about post-traumatic stress disorder as it relates to the military and being exposed to extremely traumatic situations, often in foreign lands. In the modern age, when we think about post-traumatic stress disorder, sometimes it's hard to make the connection between what's happening in our lives or even in a first responder's lives relative to what happened to someone who's been exposed to combat. What we've learned over time is that we need to think about post-traumatic stress disorder in different ways. For many people, there's not a significant event that occurs that creates this traumatic break or this traumatic experience. Instead, it's more of an accumulation of events. It's the addition of the things that make them fatigued and exhausted because there's kind of a relentless repetition of similar events over the course of time. So for example, rather than talking about trauma in terms of quantity of all those things that they see, it's really about quality. And what happens when responders go out into the world is they tend to prepare themselves. Their brains learn how to desensitize them to the things they get exposed to, but every now and then something gets in behind the breastplate. And when that happens, that's what's considered an acute stress incident or acute stress event. And so when that occurs, it usually happens as a result of only two different kinds of things that are happening. One is what we call moral injury. And moral injury is what happens when I see something that happens to a person that just should not be allowed. That just can't happen. And so oftentimes that's what happens when we hear about things that occur to innocent people, like children and babies. Those are really tough. The second type of trauma that gets to first responders in particular is the fact that they make decisions. And oftentimes they make decisions that are the right decisions, but as a result of that, or as part of that, someone doesn't make it. And when a good person doesn't make it through, that hurts. That makes them feel like they didn't do everything they could or possibly should have done, even though that may not be true. And so over the course of time, those two types of situations, moral injury and decisions, create the stage or the fertile ground for post-traumatic stress. I think the other thing we need to remember is that rather than thinking so much about post-traumatic stress, is what should we be doing about stress that's got a basis in trauma in the first place? And what we've come to know is that when there's those acute stress incidents, if we process it right now, if we process it within 30 to 45 days of the event occurring, the likelihood of it becoming a post-traumatic stress disorder goes down markedly. And yet, culturally speaking, within public safety, the idea for many generations has been, we're tough, we can handle this. We just don't talk about it. And if you do talk about it, there must be some flaw in you or some weakness in you. Hopefully, as time goes by, and which is really why we're talking about PTSD awareness, is that you can't do the job that you do and not be affected by it. Because at some point along the way, it gets personal, right? You see someone who looks like someone you know, someone looks a little bit like your kid, or again, something bad happens to a good person. And if we learn to process those difficult emotions and remove the anxiety and maybe the depression or the distress that comes with it, we're ready to come out and fight another day. But when we suck it up buttercup and lock it inside for years, the next thing you know, it's accumulated to a place where it's boiling over, it's leaking out, it's showing up at home, you're becoming reactive, you're having anxiety issues, even anxiety attacks, you don't want to go to work anymore, you're medicating with your own brand, which usually is alcohol or something like that, and the next thing you know, something negative happens, the consequence of which is due to the post-traumatic stress. So as we look at June being PTSD Awareness Month, let's begin to think about how can we avoid this in the first place, and how can we get help for it when we have it. We've got amazing trauma modalities that we can use these days. We use EMDR, something called ART, something called CPT, all kinds of neat stuff. And the result of all of those is that you can process through trauma, and we can actually help you get ready and go back to work. We give you new tools and ways to look at things and to process as you go so that it doesn't have to store up again and then explode or leak or come out sideways. Thank you for doing all that you do to keep us safe in the world, and let's learn how to keep you safe too by taking better care of your brains as you go through this amazing career you have.